Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Sumukascha ekadantascha kapilo gajakarnakaha. Lambodharascha vikato vignarajo vinayakaha. Dhumaketur ganadhyakshaha phalachandro gajananaha. Vakratundaha surpakarno cherambaha skandapurvajaha. Suklam bharadharam vishtum pasivarnam chaturbhujam prasannavadanam dhyayet sarva vignopasantaye yasya viradavaktraadhyaha parishadhyaha parastatham vigham vignanti satatam vishvaksenam tamastraye gurur brahma gurur vishnuhu gurur devo maheswaraha gurur sakshat param brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Satchidananda Rupaya Krishnaya Aklishtakarine Namo Vedanta Vedhyaya Gurave Buddhisakshine Krishna Dvaipaya Namvyasam Sarva Bhuta Hiteratam Vedabjabhaskaram Vande Samadhi Nilayam Munim Janmadhyasya Yataha Anvayat Itaratascha Arteshu Abhignahat Sarat Tene Brahma Hida Yaha Adi Kavaye Mukhyanti Yat Surayah Tejo Vari Murdam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Sargo Mrisha Dhamna Sena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi Dharmahat Puchidha Kaitavotra Paramo Nirmattaranam Satam Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu Sivadam Tapatrayon Mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krute Kimva Parairit Paraha Sadhyo Hridi Avarudhyatehe Atra Krutibihi Sushibihi Tatshanat Nigama Kalpataror Galitam Phalam Sukamukat Amrta Drava Samyutam Pivata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhuraho Rasikaha Bhumi Bhavukaha Yam Pravrajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tan Mayataya Taravaha Abhinedhu Tam Sarva Bhuta Hridayam Munimanatospi Yaha Svanubhavam Akila Sruti Saaram Ekam Adhyatma Deepam Apititirshatam Tamondhamam Samsarinam Karunayah Purana Gukhyam Tam Vyasasurnum Upayami Gurum Muninam Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Now with the Bhagavan's grace, we will continue and partake a brief summary of Skandham 2. In our last session, we saw Dhyana Vidhi very briefly. Now, to do Dhyanam, first step is Dharanam. Dharana means concentration, focus. The question comes, what do you concentrate on? So, Swami, in his infinite compassion, in the Vyasa Bhagavan, in the Avataram of Vyasa, has given us both pathways. Both we can concentrate on the Sthula Sariram of Bhagavan, or we can concentrate, practice Dharanam, practice concentration on the Sukshma Swarupam of Bhagavan. So that is first what we're going to take up today. Slokams in Skandham 2, Adhyayam 1, 23 to 29, and then continuing into Adhyayam 2. I'll tell you the slokams when we come to Adhyayam 2. And then Adhyayam 3, I'll also tell you that slokam 2 when we come to that. We will cover this very briefly. So first we will take up slokams 23 to 29 in Adhyayam 1, Skandham 2, and I will give you the English meaning briefly so that we can review what is it that we have been taught. 2.1. 23. 1 second. The king in 22, Slokam 28, asks, Swami, how is Dharana to be practiced? That's the king's question. Where should one concentrate? How does it remove the weaknesses and impurities in the mind? That's a question that he asks in Slokam 22, Adhyayam 1, Skandham 2. Now Sukamuni answers from Slokam 23 onward. He says, a person who has succeeded in practicing steady posture, in controlling the vital energies, the pranayama, in abandoning attachments and in subduing the senses, he should fix his mind on the gross form of the Lord with the help of the understanding. The universe is the grossest of the gross entities in the form of Bhagavan. The universe is nothing but Bhagavan's form, the cosmic form. All the past, present and future subsist in it. So permeating this universal form of Bhagavan, there are 7 sheets, kosangal. One that consists of the 5 elements, the Panchabhutangal, then egoism, and the universal intelligence, the cosmic intelligence. So this is the form of Virata Purusha. He should be is the object of concentration. On the sthula form, gross form, this is what we focus on. So what is this Virata Purusha? How can I concentrate on him? Now I know the Panchabhutangal are there. Everything in nature is made of Panchabhutangal. My ego is playing also. Cosmic intelligence is there. But how do I break through all this? What do I focus on? So Swami explains further. Patala Lokam is the underside of his feet. The heels and the upper part of the feet constitute Rasatala. Mahatala is the ankle of the Creator, and Talatala is 4-leg. The 2 knees of the cosmos of Virata Purusha is Sutala, and the 2 thighs are Vitala and Atala. So these are the 7 kingdoms, the local, what we call the Netherlands. Okay. Then the Virata Purusha's hip constitutes the Bhuhu, or the earth atmosphere, which is where we are cognizant of. And his deep navel constitutes the sky. The Svarga is spoken of his chest, Hridayam. Maharloka as his neck, Janaloka as the face, and Tapoloka as the forehead, while the Satyaloka is the head of the multi-headed being. Different levels of experiences we have in our life, we can relate to these 14 words. Then that is up to Slokam 28. Then 29, Vyasa Bhagavan Shloka continues. It is Indra and the Devas are identified as his arms. So whenever I use my arms and the strength of the arms, I can think of Indra, right? And the quarters, as you see, the various directions, okay, that we all know. There are lots of infinite directions actually. If you go around 360 degrees, in each direction there is a Deva, and that is Bhagavan's ears. So I have to be careful in what I speak, isn't it? The sound as his organ of hearing. So his ears are there, and the sound I make is the organ of his hearing actually. And the Aswini Devas as his nose, and the smell as his organ of smelling. So if I smell something, who is actually smelling? Bhagavan is smelling. Virata Purusha is smelling. The smell is his organ of smelling, right? And my nose operates, it functions to grasp the smell, because it is the Aswini Devas. The Devas are not there, the divine power is not there, I cannot smell. Divine power is not there, I cannot hear. So the actual smell is the organ of Bhagavan's hearing, and the burning fire as his mouth. Okay. So then he goes into further descriptions that we will skip and go to Adhyayam 2, starting with Slokam 8. Then now comes the Sthula, the Sukshma Swarupa. Internally, I could say Antaryami, right? And this Sukamani continues in Slokam 8. in Adhyayam 2. Some meditate on him in the space within the heart, as being of the size limited by the heart and as having the lotus, the discus, the conch, and the mace in his 4 arms. His face is calm and peaceful. His eyes beautiful like lotus petals, and is wearing cloth yellow like the pistil of the kadamba flower. He has armlets, earrings, and diadem, shining with the precious gems with which they are studded. His feet are established in the blooming hot lotus of great yogis. His chest is marked by the presence of Lakshmi. His neck is adorned with a brilliant gem Kaustuba, and his frame is surrounded by an unfading wreath of assorted flowers and leaves. He is bedecked with lustrous girdle, rings, bracelets, and anklets. His face is smiling and beautiful. He is framed by his curly locks, dark cut shining. By the movement of his brows, he casts his glance with a playful smile on his lips. He seems to be bestowing, when he does that, his blessing in abundance on all. One should meditate on this form of the Lord until it manifests itself in the mind steadily. One then should meditate on each part of the Lord, from the foot up to his smiling face. One should concentrate on one part at a time, passing from the lower ones upward until the mind gets purified and the part meditated upon becomes clearly manifest in the mind. So long as man has not gained intense devotion to the Lord, who is the master of all, the witness of everything, one should meditate on the Virata Rupa of the Lord at the end of one's various spiritual practices with great attention and sincerity. Put it in a simple way. Picture the same Bhagavan that you worship in every one that you meet, in every being that you come across, including a cockroach. Okay, that is the same thing as part of Virata Purusha. Now we move on to Slokam 33 in Adhyayam 2. Sukamuni continues. He says, O king, there are the two paths of spiritual progress, eternal, spoken in the Vedas, of which you wanted to know. The first path is of immediate salvation and the other of gradual salvation. Bhagavan Vasudeva himself revealed this to Brahma, who worshipped him with great devotion in ancient times. There is no other path of spiritual fulfillment so easy and safe for being caught up in samsara as the path of devotion to the Lord. Bhakti. Bhakti is the ultimate. Because Sukamani continues, says Brahma himself impartially scrutinized the Vedas thrice with deep concentration, and the conclusion he arrived at was that the most efficient means of spiritual evolution is what generates intense devotion to Sri Hari. From the workings of the inherently inert entities like the buddhi, the senses, etc., in an intelligent and purposive way, and from such other aids useful for inference, you can see that Sri Hari dwells as the indwelling spirit and witness in all beings. Therefore, O Raja, man should always hear about, praise, and remember the all-perfect Sri Hari in all contexts, in all seriousness, and with deep attention. That's the instruction for Dhyana Vidhi. Continuing. Now we move to Slokam 10 in Adhyayam 3. Slokam 10. Sukamuni continues. but the one being to be adored with intense devotion by all. Okay, Swami, I will cultivate devotion, but who? The one being to be adored with intense devotion by all, whether they be devoid of all desires, or whether they desire all enjoyments, or whether they seek moksha, or they seek the Supreme Person, the one God of all. In other words, all the deities, all the devatas, Devaswarupas mentioned above are nothing but is manifestation. This is what Swami said when he declared his avatarhood. This is Sarva Devata Swarupa is what this form is. Okay, all the devas, whatever you look at, they are all his manifestation only. And all the powers stem from him alone. So, a man of intelligence, a wise person, worships a supreme being alone through all the deities. Whatever Swami worships, Shiva, Narayana, Krishna, Rama, Saraswati, Pillayar, doesn't really matter. It is a supreme being, the one entity that you're worshipping through that form. And that is prema, selfless love, reasonless, causeless, timeless love. That's what it is. So that is what we should worship. That is, in a brief summary, on the dharana, discipline, the dhyana vidhi. We saw briefly now the dharana, discipline, concentration, what to do, what to practice. Now we will take up the exalted prayer by Sukha himself. We saw Kunti Stuti, we saw Vishnu Stuti, we heard. Now let us partake Sukha Stuti. Okay? Adhyayam 4, starting in Slokam 11 to 25. And I will be reading the meanings to you in English. It's rather unfortunate, but we're still blessed to hear it. It's rather unfortunate in one sense that we're not hearing it in Sanskrit. Maybe one slokam I'll share with you, but more important, we must listen to this in our mother tongue. When you listen to Bhagavatam or any scriptural teachings in our mother tongue, it impresses and drives home very powerfully. But it's rather unfortunate that we have to speak a language and try to translate it in English, which is fundamentally a deficient language, and it's not the mother tongue of any one of us, nor me, nor you, the listeners. But let us proceed. That's all Bhagavan's play. So now, starting in Slokam 11 in Adhyayam 4, Sukha Stuti. Sukha says, the Sutta first says, in Adhyayam 11, when the king questioned him with different questions, okay, see, he could ask several things. How does Bhagavan, with the power of his Maya, accomplish the creation of the world? And how does he sustain it? How does he finally dissolve it? How is even the wisest men are not able to have an inkling of the mystery surrounding the doings of Hari. How does Hari, who is one, manifest as several incarnations? Is it assuming, does he do that by, when he takes an avataram, does he do that by assuming the gunas of Prakriti, certain gunas, or all gunas of the water, or gradually, little by little? How does it happen? So please tell me all this. So he asks all the questions. Before the Sukha answers the question, he offers his prayers. That is what we're going to listen to the prayers now. But Sutta says, being so questioned by the king on the topic of Bhagavan's glorious deeds and excellences, Avataranga, Sukha began to speak, remembering Bhagavan all the while. And Sukha said, my salutation, my worship to the Supreme Person, the boundless being, the wielder of the triune Sakti, the three Saktis, Icha Sakti, Jnana Sakti, Kriya Sakti, right? For his Leelas in creation, preservation, and dissolution. The indwelling spirit within all beings and the unseen director of everything. First prayer. Second, my salutations, my worship, my namaskarams to him, again unto him, who dispels the sins of the good, who destroys the wicked, who manifests as the various pure divine forms, and who bestows on all the renouncing truth seekers the blessings they seek. Third prayer. Namaskarams again and again to the bestower of illumination on true devotees, who is far from the reaches of hypocritical ascetics, and who ever shines in his glory as the all-inclusive Brahman, whom there is none to equal or excel. Next prayer. Repeated again and again namaskaram to that being whose fame consists in his all-purifying sanctity, pavitram pavitranam cha, as we say in Sahasranamam. The corruptions of sin are overcome by those who listen to his excellences, who praise him, who remember him, who serve him, who salute him, and who worship him. Next prayer. Namaskarams again and again to that being whose glory consists in his all-purifying sanctity. By worshipping his feet, men of discrimination easily overcome the attachment for the enjoyments of this world and of the hereafter, and attain easily to the bliss of Brahman. Next prayer. By namaskarams again and again to the being whose glory consists in his all-purifying sanctity, without worshipping whom, with the fruits of their practices, aspirants who devote themselves to austerity, charity, yoga, repetition of mantras, etc., can never attain spiritual fulfillment. The rituals are not important, the spiritual is important. Next one. Namaskarams to that Supreme Being, by serving whose devotees, even such sinful communities like the forest tribe, they all become pure, serving the bhaktas. Then, next one. May he who is united as the inner self by men of self-control, who is intuited as the inner self by the men of self-control, who is the Lord of all, whose nature finds expression as revelation and as moral effort and as spiritual striving, and whose mystery astounds even such highly evolved beings like Brahma and Shiva. May that Bhagavan be propitious to me. Next one. May he who is the Lord of Sri, who is the grantor of the fruits of all yajnas, who is the master of all creatures, who is the Lord of all the worlds, who protects the world through his various incarnations, and who, in his incarnation as Sri Krishna, came as the Lord and support of all devotees constituting the tribes of Andhakas, Vrishnis, and Sattvatas. May he be propitious unto me. Next one. He, by meditating on whom with intensity of devotion, the wise ones get that refinement of understanding with which they are able to know the truth of the Atman, and therefore and thereafter to expound the truth in different ways according to their intellectual bent. May he be propitious unto me. Next one. He, by whose prompting, very important, sloka number 22, he by whose prompting Saraswati, identical with the Veda, emanated from the mouth of Brahma at the beginning of creation, imparting to Brahma the creative idea. May that supreme bestower of spiritual knowledge be propitious unto me. Now let me read this slokam in Sanskrit, and it's a beautiful slokam. What happened to Brahma? When we all say the non-mukhan, first to the Brahma, even the prayer slokam we say whose grace is taught Brahma the Vedas, right? And this is very beautifully described here, how Swami acted. Now 2.4.22. Okay? In the beginning of this kalpam, which is Brahma's day, now Brahma was thinking what to do. At this time, in his hridayam. And what happened? A memory of the previous kalpam, the previous day, was inspired. The memory was inspired. And how to inspire that memory? Because Brahma's job is to create the universe, the creation, as it is already latent, potent in Bhagavan's womb. That we saw that earlier. So the next day comes, the memory comes to Brahma. See, this is what it is. How does memory, what inspired it? That inspiration took place from Jnana Devata Saraswati, and that took place through her, the grace of Bhagavan. That Bhagavan, okay, and that then manifested as the various Angangal as the Vedas from Bhagavan, from Brahma's face, and that constitutes the creation process. That Rishinam, see, this is Rishinam Rishabha, it says that. Let me read that slokam, because one slokam I do want to read. It is actually brings you goosebumps. Number 22 in Adhyayam 4 and Skandham 2, 2.4.22. Okay? Prachodita yena pura saraswati vitanvata ajasya sati smrutim hridi salakshana praduhu abhut kilasyataha saha me rishinam rishabha prasidatam. The rishinam rishabha, the rishis among all the rishis. Okay? Kavim Kavinam, it says like that in another Vedic mantra. That Bhagavan who inspired and prompted through Saraswati, the Jnana Devadai, the memory in Brahma, when he woke up from his sleep, the next kalpam, Setauraha kalpam we are today, right at the beginning, the memory came. Hey, this is the way it was. From that memory came, the Vedas manifested through him, and then the creation took place. That Bhagavan who inspired, who taught Brahma, the very first Adi Kavi, as we say in our prayer slokam, who taught in his hridayam, the Veda. That Bhagavan, Mukhyanti yat Suryaha, even the most knowledgeable scholars cannot understand. They're absolutely mystified at his greatness. But that Bhagavan, that is Rishinam Rishabha, may prasidatat, maybe Anugraham, Bhagavan's Anugraham is praying in Slokam 22. Okay? Then we will go to 23, 24 and 25 before we conclude today. Giving you the meaning in English. 23. Next prayer, may he who out of the Panchabhudangal forms the bodies of all beings and resides within them as their indweller, manifesting in them the 16 faculties and their function. May that Bhagavan inspire my words. May that Bhagavan inspire my words. This is who's speaking. Sukha Muni is speaking. Please, these are all things we should never forget. Such humility, okay? I am not speaking. May he speak through me. May he inspire my words. Number 24. Namaskaram to Bhagavan Vyasa of unlimited spiritual splendor and fulfillment, achievement, whose nectarine words constitute the immortal drink of divine knowledge for all devotees to imbibe, for all time to come. This is Bhagavatam. So he's first giving a namaskar to Bhagavan Vyasa. He says, because of the nectarine words, what these words in Bhagavatam constitutes, gives the immortal drink, the drink of immortality, the Amritam. Okay, Nigama Kalpataror Galitam, we saw that, right? This, Amrita Palam, that is what it is. That drink of divine knowledge, the immortal drink of divine knowledge, is what is being conveyed, is what is being taught and by given to us, by told to us, and by the works of the veteran works of Bhagavan Vyasa. Okay, that is what. So in Namaskaram. Then in 25, Sukamani says, "O Raja, Brahma, who had from his origin the knowledge of the Vedas within himself, he then explained to Narada, who was questioning him very earnestly, this knowledge of the Atma Vidya, in which Brahma himself was instructed by Bhagavan Sri Hari, Srimad Narayana himself." Narada asked about this. This is what Sukha says in Slokam 25. That is how we come to know. Narada, Bhagavan taught to Brahma. Brahma then taught that to Narada. Narada taught that to Vyasa. Vyasa was expounding that Sukamuni could not resist himself. He sat in the end of the class, so to speak, completely immersing himself, reveling himself like a madman. He was so full of bliss. Then when the right disciple came in the form of Parikshit, the right opportunity came and the right place, the banks of river Ganga. Everything was appropriate, as Sukamuni says. Then, and the student was appropriate, most qualified to receive this knowledge. Then Sukha himself came and taught him. That is what, if that had not happened, how can you and I listen to Bhagavatam today? Just think how compassionate all this, the change, the way Bhagavan is acting. So that is what, that's how he concludes. He says, Narada came and asked Brahma, and Brahma taught him this. So with that, we will conclude today's session. Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Samastalokaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastalokaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastalokaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.